So I want to talk a little bit more with Bud Spriggs. He's an experienced loan officer, and Bud has the knowledge and expertise you need to explore the many financing options available to you. Ensuring that you make the right choice for you and your family is his ultimate goal. Bud is committed to providing his customers with mortgage services that exceed their expectations. Bud, tell us a little bit more about Movement Mortgage and your role with them.
Well, let me tell you, we're realtor-centric. Every loan in my pipeline is purchase money business, and it was that way when the refi business was going crazy. So that's what I do. Last week, something you just mentioned about it being a cash business. Last week, something I keep harping on my agents too, and even my customers, that once I give you a pre-approval, that's great. You can go out there and look for a home. But I start gathering all my information. I said, just give me a couple pieces of paper and give me your assets, give me your income. I'm one of the only, or if not the only, lender that I know of that has the ability to take your loan, send it in, and get a full loan commitment while you're out there looking for a home. Mm-hmm. And I had an agent that I said, stay on your customer, get him moving, get his stuff into me, and in one ear and out the other. Sure enough, they found a home they wanted, they loved, they've been looking for it. They came in, they were underbid by $20,000 by a cash buyer, mm-hmm. and they lost the deal. Now, mm-hmm. had his agent been able to say, hold on, my guy's got a loan commitment, we can close in 10 days. All I need is an appraisal, title, and insurance. I've got to think we would have had an 80% chance of getting that deal right there, because it's only contingent really on the appraisal. Yeah, and that's I've been in the real estate business for 7 years, and I've worked primarily on the listing side, so I've dealt with tens of thousands of offers, and it amazes me that how many buyers enter the marketplace and how many realtors allow them to enter the marketplace without even obtaining first of all, a pre-approval, let alone a full loan approval. And, I preach this on my show all the time, the importance of obtaining that full loan approval really prior to even shopping for a home. The problem with getting the full, everybody, first of all, your big banks, they're having a hard time getting stuff done in 45 days, so they're not doing approvals, actually loan commitments on anything that's not under contract. And everybody else is understaffed. We keep ourselves overstaffed so we can work on deals that aren't deals yet. Right. And it's just 40 to 50% of this market is controlled by cash. And buyers, it's always backwards. The loan officers are chasing the realtors for business, but the realtors should be chasing the loan officers for business. Buyers should be picking up the phone and talking to a loan officer before they go out into the marketplace. And then ends up happening, to many realtors, is they work with buyers who aren't approved, and they get them under contract with something, and then they're not a qualified buyer. And so many realtors just, spend so much time and energy, and it wastes, the buyer's time as well, and then they end up getting disappointed that they had their heart set on a home. They're just happy to have some realtors are just happy to have a customer working for them. They don't want to take that next step. Right. And so very important, if you're a buyer out there and inexperienced on how to purchase your home, get in touch with Bud Spriggs here at Movement Mortgage. He's the preferred lending provider of the Jamie Meloni Real Estate Show. And, of course, you'll find him over at my website, TampaBayRadio.com. But you got your own websites as well if you want to give out that information. Just BudSpriggs.com, BudSpriggs.com, or call me at 727-798-3888. Okay, and you specialize strictly in purchase business, correct? No, refi? I've got friends and old customers that come to me for refinances, but like I said, in my pipeline right now, I've got zero refinances. Everything's purchase business. Okay, and that's what we're geared towards doing. And what type of volume are you doing a month right now? Are you seeing an uptick in applications, a downtick? What are we seeing right now? It seems to be very busy. Yeah. Hard to keep up. It's nice. And I want to talk a little bit more about the HUD process. I myself am a HUD listing broker. HUD is an acronym for the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and they're a very large government organization. But with respect to what I do, they insure lenders against borrower default. So a borrower will go to a lender and make a loan, and instead of having to put down 5, 10, or 20% on a conventional mortgage, they can apply for an FHA financed loan, and they only have to put 3.5% down. So if the borrower defaults, then then a lender can go to the Department of Housing and Urban Development and then basically file an insurance claim. They're not a lender; they are an insurer of loans. And then the lender is made whole again, and the property is then conveyed over to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And when HUD acquires the properties, they had always had them appraised prior to going on to the market, and we knew that the list price was the appraised value, and buyers using FHA financing knew if the property qualified for FHA financing, and any lender required repairs.
as of a couple of months ago, they no longer supply the appraisal to the borrowers, and borrowers have to get, their own appraisal. This has created a lot of confusion amongst the real estate community because they do not understand, is that existing appraisal going to affect the new appraisal? What about the lender required repairs? Are they going to be the same? Are they going to be different? Do you have any updates for us on this?
Well, first of all, Bud Does HUD, www.buddoeshud.com, same website. And we do offer the $100 down program. We still offer that. Now, back to your question, I've just got my first mortgage where they have the repair escrow that you're familiar with. The other ones have just been, I've had a couple since this rule changed. We just went out and got a brand new appraisal. Now, remember, the purchase price that you're putting out there is based on an appraisal that HUD had done.
Right, but the outsourcers are now allowed to use their own broker price opinion that their listing agent has supplied in their own discretion at setting the purchase price. Before, it had to be priced at the appraised value.
All right, that's nice.
That's nice. Okay. And so, but yeah, this new guideline that HUD has put out there, where a borrower using FHA financing has to obtain their own appraisal, it was just kind of put out there all at once with no mortgagee letter guidance.
Right. Well, I'm getting my first deal that has repair escrow. So when we get the appraisal, we're going to have an appraisal done. And what's that appraisal going to say? If that appraisal says, hey, this is HUD insurable, then how does this other repair for escrow from the other appraisal set in?
Right.
It's the first one I've done, so I'll keep you posted on that.
Very good information. Going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. I'm going to talk a little bit more about HUD properties and the $100 down program, how you can purchase a property for $100 down, and also the Good Neighbor Next Door program, which makes eligible buyers able to buy a home at 50% off the appraised value. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that after the break. If you're just tuning in, you've been listening to the Jamie Meloni Real Estate Show here on 1250 WINS WHNZ.
You're listening to the Jamie Meloni Real Estate Show with local expert Jamie Meloni. Now, here's Jamie.
Hi again, everybody. Thanks for staying tuned in here to the Jamie Meloni Real Estate Show. And again, you'll find this show on every Mondays at noon, so I invite you to please tune in, as this show aims to become your information source for the Tampa Bay real estate market. We've been talking with Bud Spriggs, loan officer and expert contributor here to the Jamie Meloni Real Estate Show, about HUD properties and just the overall mortgage process. And I want to talk a little bit more about some of the advantages of purchasing HUD government-owned properties. First of all, you can find all of their properties over at the website HUDhomestore.com. Again, HUD, H-U-D, homestore.com. All of the inventory is on that website. And so for any of the selling agents that are out there listening to me that sell these properties, that is the primary source of information as well. If the property is up on the HUD website, it is available. If you are not finding the property, say you're seeing it in the multiple listing service and it's not up in the on the HUD website, it's not available. There's always a lag between when the HUD notifies the listing broker and then the changes are made in the MLS. Listing brokers do not see or present the offers on these properties, which is a difference between that and many of the other bank-owned properties where we do see and present the offers. But HUD properties are conveyed via a bid system on HUDhomestore.com. And one of the programs that they have available that's very successful is the $100 down program. And Bud, you want to talk a little bit about the HUD $100 down program?
Well, normally your down payment on an FHA loan is 3.5%. So let's just go with $100,000. Biggest situation. Two things you're worried about: income, credit, and the funds to close. With when you're buying a home from HUD, there's a couple of costs involved there that aren't normally involved with purchasing from a typical seller. So HUD came out with the program, $100 down. So normally you'd put $3,500 down on a $100,000 purchase. With the HUD property, you can actually get in with $100 down.
Right, but we got to make it clear to people that they're not going to show up to closing with only a $100 bill. There are closing costs and there are additional fees that are going to be on there.
Yeah, I make sure that you'll get people when they see the flyer. That's what they call up about. Right. But no, when I interview them and go over costs and go over the situation, I make sure they know they're going to have to come up with cash to close.
And what would you say on a $100,000 purchase? What is a typical cash to close if they're only doing $100 down, $3,000, $4,000?
Just guesstimating on insurance and taxes, say about $5,000.
$5,000. Yeah. Okay.
Now remember, there's also, and this is where you want to talk to your agent. There's a way for me to help them with their closing costs. There's a way for the seller to help with closing costs. So the higher the price, the higher chance you have of actually getting into a home with $100 down. But it's got to be a perfect storm. I've got to be able to adjust my rate to give them a little credit back. HUD's got to be able to pay 3% towards the closing costs. So, on a home over $100,000, there's a possibility they can actually walk in with $100 down.
Right, and I dealt with a buyer last week who had called in and wanted to put in an offer on one of my properties, which I did submit for him, and then they won the bid. And when you purchase a real estate piece of property, you got to put down a deposit. And with HUD properties, they're either $500 or $1,000.
Right.
And so this borrower thought that they were going to come to closing strictly with $100.
Right.
And, unfortunately, they didn't have any money other than the $100. And they basically just called in the offer. And I get put in those situations a lot where people call in and be like, hey, put me in an offer. And I really don't, have a lot of information on them. And so they weren't familiar with, they had to put down a deposit. So and that deposit comes off of their cash to close. But yeah, just a lot of inexperience, in the marketplace and the know-how and everything. But yeah, with the HUD properties, that's another advantage of buying the HUD properties is the low deposits.
Right,
so $500 or $1,000 is actually a very low deposit. If the property is $50,000 or under, which many of them are, you only have to have a $500 deposit in escrow.
Right.
If it's over $50,000, then it becomes a $1,000 deposit. And but you're saying on most $100 down programs, they're still showing up with about $4,000 or $5,000 cash to close. Correct?
Yeah. If nobody is helping with their closing costs, now that same $100 down program, let me just throw this in there. You can actually buy a home with $100 down, and we can do the 203K on above that. So we can actually give them money to buy the home and loan them money for repairs, and still they come to closing with the $100 down plus closing costs and settlement costs.
Yeah, and with the HUD government properties, you can request with your initial offer up to 3% closing cost assistance. That is the cap on HUD paid closing costs. So if you're a selling agent out there, just be mindful of that. And buyers have to pay two traditionally seller paid costs in a HUD transaction. They have to pay the documentary stamps on the deed, which is a state tax that's assessed on all real estate transfers. The formula for that is 70 cents for every $100.
Right.
So you can calculate that. And the title insurance, that is typically a seller pay cost in our marketplace. And that varies from marketplace to marketplace, whatever is customary. But in the Tampa Bay region, it is customary that a seller pays for the title insurance. That, too, is a promulgated or set rate by the state. And it's something like $5.25 for the first $100,000 and then $5.75 for every $100,000 over or something like that.
Right, over 100.
Yeah, and so title companies, their title insurance, that's not something that you can shop. That's going to be the same from title company to title company. What you can shop is their closing fees,
Their
and
settlement fees,
settlement
exactly.
fees, and ultimately their customer service.
Right.
But yeah, if you're out there in the marketplace, just know that title insurance is a promulgated or set fee by the state of Florida here, and so that cost is not
And
negotiable.
that's fairly new that they get to shop for that too. It was crazy that HUD said, "Hey, we're not paying for anything, and here's a couple of settlement companies you can use, title companies." So now at least they have the option of going out there and shopping around a little bit.
Right. And another program out there, very underutilized, but it's underutilized, I believe, because there's just not a lot of inventory that meets the criteria, but that's the Good Neighbor Next Door program. And in short, what that program is for teachers, firefighters, and emergency responders. They can purchase HUD properties at 50% off the appraised value. And for these properties to be eligible, they have to meet certain locational criteria, and they only hit the market for the first 7 days, and they do not go in the MLS. And so the only place that you're going to find these properties are on HUDHomestore.com. And again, that's only for the first 7 days. The reason you don't see them in the multiple listing service is HUD does not pay a commission to the selling agents, nor even the listing broker, myself, if they happen to sell during this period. And so our multiple listing service requires offers of compensation to be extended to selling agents. That's the idea of the multiple listing service, is that you take a listing, you charge the seller a certain commission, and then you share your commission with the other brokers. And the multiple listing service, disseminates the information out to the brokerage community. But HUD's program, Good Neighbor Next Door, does not offer any commissions. But I always stress to buyers out there, be willing to pay a commission to your brokers and tell them you're interested in that.
And we can add that to the purchase price. They can be included in the mortgage amount.
Yeah, but the problem is we just don't see a lot of the inventory on the marketplace to effectively promote this program. To find these properties, though, you would go to HUDHomestore.com, and on the main page there is a drop-down box for different bid periods, and it either says lottery or good neighbor next door in the drop-down box. I'm going off of memory, but you would go in there and you would select that drop-down and in whatever area that you're looking for, and you'll see the properties that are available. But any given time, there's only a couple in the region at any given time.
I've never done one.
Yeah, I've
26 years in the business.
Yeah, I've been selling properties for. I've been selling HUD properties for about 4.5 years, and I've only seen a couple sell during that lottery period. It's extremely rare. And so the advice I always give to people in this category is you probably want to begin your home search probably a year to a year and a half in advance, and just start monitoring the HUD website, because you can get a heck of a deal on these properties. The only conditions are that you are a teacher, firefighter, emergency responder. There may be a couple of other public service categories that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head, but you have to reside in the property as your primary residence for 36 months. And if you do move out prior to that, then there's a silent second mortgage on the property for the difference between what you acquired the property for and the actual appraised value.
And HUD will check.
Yeah. No, they do. And, another thing, the advantages of HUD properties is that they give owner occupants priority. And the first 15 days on the market, investors cannot bid, with a few exceptions on properties that are not FHA insurable. And so people can, buy these properties without the additional pressure from investor buyers out there. And I tell people, don't try to defraud the government. I've seen a few people get busted by the fraudulently putting themselves off as owner occupants when they were investors.
Yep.
And dealing with a lawsuit after the fact, after they close.
Yep.
If you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Jamie Meloni Real Estate Show here on 1250 Wins WHNZ. Coming back from the break, we're going to be talking about reverse mortgages with Malcolm Tennant of Access Reverse. So please stay tuned. There's a lot of great information on how you can purchase a property using the reverse mortgage program. So please stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment.